It's the Rangers Journal night.
Good afternoon. Welcome to the Rangers Journal. I'm David Tomney. I'm here with your match preview before we play Dundee United tomorrow afternoon at Tannadice. I'm joined today to discuss this by Dave and Gary. How you doing, Dave? You okay?
Yeah, not too bad, mate. Not too bad. Thanks for having me.
No, thanks for coming on as always. It's always a pleasure. And Gary, how are you doing today? You okay?
I'm doing well. It's start of the weekend, isn't it? So all good. I'm just watching in the background. Dave there, seeing something flying about. Was that one of Trump's cats and dogs? Was that?
Aye, that's it, mate. That's it. Still alive, I hasten to add. No plans to eat her
No
just
tea time
yet.
yet. It's not tea time yet. So I seen that dog there. So no, fine. It's a Saturday morning. Usual tasks to be getting on with, and wait for the football tomorrow.
Yeah, looking forward to it. Before we get into the match preview, there was obviously, just before we came on, there was some breaking news regarding Rangers. Some rumours circulating this morning that John Bennett was going to be stepping down as chairman, and that has been confirmed by Rangers in a statement. We said it's due to ill health. We'll do a pod on that during the week, so we won't go into too much detail. But Dave, have you got any thoughts on that when you heard it this morning? Then obviously Rangers confirming that news.
Yeah, I think first and foremost, thoughts are with him and his family. Unfortunately, I think there's a bit of ill feeling towards the board in general over the last few weeks, especially, and we can get into the rights and wrongs of that, but in the end of the day, this is a guy's health with his family, and I just hope that most fans can consider that as well.
Yeah, no, definitely agree with that, Dave. And Gary, similar to yourself, you got any thoughts on that news?
Yeah, it's obviously disappointing because I think there's no doubt he's a Rangers fan and committed to Rangers. I think he's been there for about 9 years, invested millions of pounds, something we've all would love to have had the opportunity to do. Whether a snapshot in time, you can say things are bad, but where would you be potentially without some of the things he's done over the 9 years? Do you know, if it wasn't for his investment, his resources potentially wouldn't have been at a certain point when it went at 155 and so forth. So it's hard to judge, And a board is a collection of people. We quite often use this nameless thing called a board, and like to say, it's not quite like that. It's a group of individuals that collectively make some decisions. He's been part of that. He's had a prominent role certainly over the last year. Some get right, some get wrong, but from an individual perspective, he's obviously clear and well. Wish him and his family all the best, and hopefully. And the pressure being part of the Rangers chairman must take its toll on you as well. If you've got that's far too much if you're suffering ill health. So. Hopefully he gets the privacy to recover, and wish him all the best.
Yeah, I think you've both touched on it and covered it well there. And obviously everyone from the journal wish Mr. Bennett all the best, and hopefully he's back to full fitness very soon. So right onto the matter at hand here, our away trip to Dundee United tomorrow. Obviously our last game was a disappointing 3-0 defeat to Celtic, and then we've had 2 weeks off for the international break, David. Are you feeling still the same prior to when we went into the international break, or have you had a couple of weeks to maybe simmer down and have a look at things a bit more holistically? What are your feelings now?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it, mate. I mean, obviously immediately post-match after that game, I think scunnered is probably the word to describe how I felt. Everything was rubbish. No hope, we're not going anywhere, etc., etc. A couple of weeks on, I think it's fair to say we were all talking this season about, seeing improvements. We know we've not got the finished article yet. Clement said it. We've seen it. So I think for me, the important thing was seeing improvements. And if we look at the season as a whole, as opposed to that game in isolation, then I think we were seeing improvements week on week until that game. Now, that game was absolutely a backward step. You can talk about mentality, about systems, tactics, etc. Whatever you attribute that loss to, it was clearly a regression. However, as the saying goes, you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. We had been seeing improvements up until that point, and I think now it's just really a case the team need to show us something on the pitch. We need a good game tomorrow, obviously get the 3 points, and then it's just a case of building on that week on week for me until we hit the next one at the new year.
Yeah, and Gary, prior to obviously the Celtic game, we'd beat St Johnstone in the Cup. Fairly dominant performance. We then beat Ross County 6-0 in the league. We then come to the Celtic game, and there were some good bits in that game that we could take a little bit of hope from. But ultimately, we got beat 3-0, and that's what matters at the end. So same thing to you, really, as I asked Dave. Are you feeling any different now that the international break's been, or are you still worried about what's going to come from this season?
It's a tough one, because I can swing between different perceptions or perspectives on it. In some ways, we're in a transitional season, you could argue, and they brought in all these new players, so arguably they'll start slow and hopefully build as the season goes on. But come the end of the season, you've got a stronger team you had in the last season. That's probably, if you're being objective, that's the sensible thing you're thinking, that as time goes by, we will develop as a team, we will grow and we will be better. But then you also look at it as a fan and think that's now 5 games. Clermont's struggled against 5, I think. Clermont struggled against them. We're not beating them. If anything, that was a poorer performance than the ones that we had last season against them. There's still arguments about shape, about tactics, about all the stuff. So I think it's difficult to have a real opinion as to where you're going to go. I think as a fan, my worry was last season we didn't lose the league on anything other than the fact we looked at the Celtic results. Really, we can blame Ross County and Dundee and all these other ones, but the fact was they had 10 points versus our 1 in the games in that swing where I meant we'd have won the league. So there's nothing at the start of this season that's making that look different based on that first game. That's my worry. I just want to pick up one thing. So I've been listening to lots of podcasts, lots of things over the last 2 weeks as you do, and it cracks me up. And this whole thing about the mentality, right? So and it made me think about it this morning. I think 13 of those players probably have only been there a year. This suggestion that it's this old mentality, this old team that happens to them all the time, it's maybe a bit of a false narrative. It might be quality, might be tactics, it might be a whole host of things, but mentality in terms of this group of players always does this is a bit false, considering the vast majority haven't done it unless we're blaming one individual for causing the mentality all the time. But that's it. So it just popped into my head this morning. I was thinking about it. I thought it was one of the bits I'd like to get across. That's my worry, is that we suggest it's a mentality issue. It's maybe just a quality issue, tactical issue, or a development issue.
Yeah, no, I think you make a good point there about mentality. I mean, I was one of the fans last season wanting a number of the players to be sold or released when the contract's finished. And to be honest, I think we pretty much got that. I think we got our wish of the players that left in the summer, were players that we'd seen had pretty much had their time at Rangers. Thank you very much and good luck. You mentioned it before we came on. Ryan Jack's just got a new club in the Turkish second division. Seen some fans saying maybe we should have signed him up on a pay-as-you-play deal, but that looks like that's the level he's at now, the Turkish second division. So I think you make a good point there about the mentality side of things. Like the fans pretty much got their wish in the summer by getting rid of the players that really weren't performing, and we now need to just give these players a chance to bond as a team and work under Clermont's tactical stewardship, and then see how it goes from there. So tomorrow we're away to Dundee United at Tannadice. They've obviously just been promoted. It's their first season back in the top league. We set 1 point above us, and they're on 8 points. We're on 7. The last 5 games we've had against them, I've just pulled them off here. It's been Rangers 2, Dundee United 0, Dundee United 0, Rangers 2, Rangers 2, Dundee United 1, Rangers 2, Dundee United 0, and Dundee United 1, Rangers 1. So you'll go back 5 games when we last dropped points to them. So really on that sort of form, going back the last few years, Dave, I'll ask you, do we have anything to worry about tomorrow?
I'm not convinced that we've got anything hugely to worry about. I think we should have enough to see them off. I guess the one point I would make is I'm not sure that we can point too much to the form. Just kind of going back to what Gary said, and you said yourself, we've just about got a brand new team, other than the one individual that will get blamed for everything that Gary mentioned. But outside of that, it's pretty much a new team to what faced Dundee in those games. So I think, yeah, okay, it's nice to read, maybe gives you a wee bit of confidence, but really, I guess for me, it's now on these new players to actually start building their own form history. And I do think we'll have enough. We certainly should, but I guess only time will tell.
Yeah, and just sort of sticking on that, Gary, something I like to come to. When we play teams, do you think we give too much respect at times? We hear players talking in the media and saying, this place is a hard place to go to, this place is a hard place to go to. And you see, I'll bring it up, you see the likes of Celtic, they just go and roll over these teams. Do you think at times we just give too much respect, and that could be part of our problem, part of the mentality issue that we were talking about earlier?
I think it probably is. Although, I mean, I'm thinking for 40 years now, go back to Souness's days, effectively, Dundee United's always been a hard place to go to. Tannadice has never been an easy stadium. I think it's probably twofold. I sometimes think that we maybe give teams too much respect, but conversely, teams don't give us as much respect as they give another team across the city. So maybe that's as bigger an issue than it is the other way about. If perhaps these teams are more consigned to defeat against somebody else than they are against us, so they're less likely to put up a challenge, put up a fight. Maybe that's the way to put it. I think for us, we are not in a position to underestimate anybody really. Over the last couple of years, we've not done enough to do that. So we have to be going out full pelt. Any away game in the SPL is still difficult. We don't want it to be the case. We just say we roll over teams. It's not how it works for us anyway. And certainly, even for across the city, most of the time, I think if you look at the results, I'm not beating teams 5 or 6-0 most games. It's about those fine margins, and those fine margins are things that we've been lacking at basically in the last year two. Not putting away that extra chance, not getting the break, not finishing a move. Said many times, small margins make big differences, and although the way back to that Ross County game that I said was not really that relevant in the league title. 1-0 up, you finish your chance, your game's done. And even I was thinking the Dundee United game, the last one we lost, the last one we didn't win, just in the last 5 games. I'm sure the 6th game was a game Steven Gerrard drew in, wasn't it? John Lindstrom played, and it was all over the place. I think it was just before Gerrard left. It might have been actually. Just now I think about it. And that was probably that was the last time we had dropped points at Dundee United, and we had a better team then we had now, and Dundee United were struggling at that point as well. So it's definitely given the respect they deserve, but we should win. Yeah,
and Dave, have you seen any of the Dundee United highlights or anything so far this season? Is there anything you've seen of them that you think this is going to cause us a bit of an issue?
So I'm going to be honest here, Tom. I've not seen masses. I guess what I have seen, they look quite organised. And again, going back to what Gary said, historically that's been the problem, is we've come up against these organised teams, struggled to break them down, or when we haven't then kind of finished them off. So I guess for me, the important thing is getting that first goal, and ideally getting it quite early. I think with most of these kind of teams, once you get that, it opens the game up a little bit more. There's almost a tendency to kind of shut up shop, see if you can frustrate, and then get something as the game goes on. So if we can get that early goal, changes the complexion of the game, and then it's incumbent on us or the team on the pitch to finish that off.
Yeah, so Gary, again, don't know if you've seen much of Dundee United this season. I personally haven't, but like I say, they've got a point more than us at the minute, so they've obviously started the season in a confident mood. Any thoughts on Dundee United before we move on to what we think our starting lineups are going to be?
I've seen about half an hour, I think, of the Dundee derby, and I'm sure somebody in the group chat says you should watch this game. It's really good, and I remember flicking it on, and I think Dundee United scored a couple of really good goals, actually, if I remember rightly. Maybe 2 each. I can't remember off the top of my head. And they've obviously played Hearts and managed to beat them. St Johnstone, I think. So not seeing a lot of them. I think with the highlights I've seen, they look a decent, organised Jim Goodwin style side that plays quite direct, tries to get the ball forward quickly, and will be quite defensive tomorrow. I'd assume they'll play a kind of 5 at the back and try and sit deep against us and try and catch us out through a transition, which is a slight worry considering we get caught that way quite frequently.
Yeah, I mean, you can see you nodding there, Dave. It's been an issue not just this season, but last season. We do seem to get caught on and very easy to then play through. We'll come to the starting lineup predictions for tomorrow. So, Dave, I'll come to you first. What do you think our starting lineup will be?
So I think obviously it'll be Butland in goals. I think those that dislike that man that will be blamed for everything are going to be a bit disappointed because I fully expect him to start at right back. I think it'll be quite interesting to see how he plays, given that he's had that extra couple of weeks over the international break to get his fitness up. Because remember, he wasn't fully fit when he started playing competitive games. In the middle, I think we will potentially see Proper and Kawa, or whatever you want to call him, the big man with the name that cannot be pronounced. So I think we'll probably see him get some minutes. He's been about the team. So I think he's had time to kind of integrate. And, obviously we brought him in for a reason. I think on the left, we'll probably see Hefte continue. In the middle, I fully expect to see Dio and... I fully expect to see Dio and Barron in the middle. I've got a bit of bad news, or certainly my prediction is bad news in that three in the attacking lineup. I think we will see Cherney on the right, potentially Tom Lawrence starting in the number 10 role. And then I think on the left, there's maybe a bit of debate. I suspect Cortez will start that. I think he's a bit further on. The manager alluded to the fact he played 60 minutes in that bounce game against Motherwell. So I think he'll start on the left, but I certainly don't see him finishing out the game there. I think they'll manage his minutes. And up top, I think we'll probably see Dessers start. I know a lot of folk are keen to see Igamani come on. I think he'll probably will get some minutes, but I don't know if that'll be at centre forward or on the left wing to replace Cortez.
Yeah, that's. I think that's fairly, settled team to go with. Couple of changes in there, and I get where you're coming from. Gary, what's your team? Much different from Dave's, or you agree with what you're saying?
Again, so I Butland, Tav, Proper, and Stutter. I don't think the Dutch boy will play. I'll never say it. I'll never have my team prediction because I don't know how to say his name, so I'll just leave him out every time. And we'll go where it was. The one bit I was undecided was do you go Fraser left back and Hefty left midfield, or do you go Hefty left back and Cortez left midfield? That was the one bit I kind of swithered over, particularly. I think in mine I switched it a couple of times and ended up going back to Hefty left back, and just because that's his natural position, and Cortez playing an hour at left midfield. The central midfield, I thought it's whether you go Barron. I went with Barron and Raskin. I think Raskin should come back. I'd like to see him come in. The two of them quite strong in the tackle, able to get about the park. That mobility, again, it might help Hefty and Tavernier if they can kind of push to the sides, let them go forward. And Diamande playing kind of number 10 type role again with Dessers up front, Cherney on the right. So I think a couple of changes, 2 changes maybe from 1 or 2 changes from what Dave said. I don't think you'll see Yagamani starting. I don't think you'll see Barjami starting. I think Cortez will play an hour. I think what you're more likely to see these guys next week against Dundee when you're home at Ibrox. That's when they'll start games. They won't start away at Tannadice. I'd be very surprised. Certainly when he said yesterday, come on, he's 2 training sessions he'll have had, Barjami, if he played today's one. So it's unlikely he's going to start him based on previous history. That's my take. So we've got a pretty settled 11 to some degree, with tweaks here and there, and bedding in some players as time goes by.
So you've just before I give my prediction, you just touched on an interesting point there about Rami having a couple of training sessions with the team, and not being thrown in. Now, just being a bit of devil's advocate here, the guy's cost us just over £4 million. He's played the majority of minutes for Albania over the international break. Do you not think he should be getting put straight in the team? I mean, at the end of the day, it's a game of football. You know, get on the ball, put the ball in the net. We want our best players out on the pitch. What do you think, Gary? Are you a fan of this, giving them time to train with the team, or do you just want to see the players out on the pitch?
I remember the days, and maybe I'm sure you all will as well. Players would be signed in the morning and play in the afternoon over years gone by. That doesn't seem to be the case now. You know, I'm basing it on listening to Clement's press conference yesterday, and the way he talked about how you need to know players' names, you need to kind of know wee bits about how the style of play. It's more about the things he was alluding to as opposed to actually directly saying he wouldn't start. That's I suppose I'm reading into what he was saying. I think he should probably. In fact, I probably think he should go on the bench tomorrow. I think Dundee games, Ibrox is the best one to start. That's a more settled one for somebody new at the club. I probably would have went with more tried players tomorrow. So I can understand it tomorrow. If I'd been at home, I would have said get him in straight away. I think being away at Tannadice, I can see the point.
I mean, for my starting 11, I've gone with Butland, Tavernier, Suter, Proper. I think Sterling will be in at left back, and I've gone with the same midfield as you, Gary, Raskin, Barron and Diamandi, with Czerny out on the right, Hefty out on the left, and Dessers up front. And I've gone with that because I just don't think he'll throw Cortez in after a 60-minute bounce game. I think he's more likely to be coming from the bench, if anywhere. And obviously Ross McCausland picked up a knock when he was away with Northern Ireland. So whether he's going to even make the squad or whether that's going to be a couple of weeks, I'm not too sure. I don't think he'll start Egeman, simply due to the fact he's the only alternative to Dethers now that Danilo's out for another, well, at least month. So that's a team I've gone with. Couple of Gary Muncher's put up his team there that people can see. Anyone but Tav at right back. Suter, Proper, Hefty, Barron, Raskin, Azrami, Czerny, Cortez, Egeman. As I say, we can. They're all good teams and all got different styles about them. But I think with the way Clement has come in, I don't think he's going to be chucking in the likes of, as I say, Cortez after injury, Bajrami after only a couple of trade. As much as I'd like to see him in there, because I saw a couple of games for Sassuolo last season, and he certainly looks a good player. So the sooner we can get him into the team and playing on a regular basis, it's definitely going to help us. So 12 o'clock kickoff tomorrow. Dundee United away. Just before we finish, Dave, Gary, we'll come to each of you. What's your score predictions, Dave? Is it going to be nice and positive, or is it going to be a bit of a struggle at lunchtime, like these games usually are?
So part of me was tempted to say 2-0, just because that seems to be the kind of most consistent scoreline across the last few games. I'll say 3-1, mate. I think we will get some goals, but again, just kind of as we touched on, those transitional moments, we still look vulnerable for me.
Yeah. And are you going to be brave and give us any goal scorers, or are you going to leave that?
I think one Dessers, one Journey, and I'm just going to set the chat off here. One for Tav.
Cool. And Gary, what's your score prediction?
So I had 3-0. Then I think I done that this morning. I thought it'd be 3-0. Again, until you said every score, it was 2 goals they scored in every other game against them. So going 3-0. And maybe Tav would do a wonderful 35-yard free kick. I'm sure one of those last games at Tannadice must have been one of those, because that's one of the best free kicks I've seen, isn't it? They scored a beauty at Tannadice a couple of years ago. So I Dessers, who would expect to score Suter, because he used to play with Dundee United, and score a header, and must be due a header in a corner, and Tav free kick.
That sounds good. I'm going to go with a 2-0. That was what I was thinking beforehand, and no idea why. I just think Tav will get a goal tomorrow, whether it be a penalty or a free kick, and Dessers as well. So this has been the match preview. There have been comments coming in. I like Cammy 5-1. I will take that. That will set up a nice Sunday afternoon for us. Curry 2-1 if Tavernier plays, 4-0 if he doesn't. So, a win's a win. Curry will take it. And Gary Miller saying he'll take a 2-0. So hopefully it's a big 3 points again tomorrow. We've got a lot of games coming up before the next international break. Obviously, Europe starts on Thursday. So that's going to be testing the squad to its limits as well. So just before we leave, Dave, any final thoughts from yourself before we finish up?
Yeah, just as I said at the start, I think for me, obviously a win is non-negotiable tomorrow. I would like to see not a build on the Celtic game, because, less said about that, the better. But, just going a game back before that with the Ross County game, I think, again, it's just seeing that progression in the team, seeing that better understanding, those moments of link-up. So that's kind of outside the win. That's what I'll be looking for tomorrow. But other than that, nope. And thanks for having me on, mate.
No, as always, Dave, thanks again for giving up your time and coming on and chatting. Gary, same to you, mate. Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
Yeah, I think it's good to be back. It does seem like ages since the last game. So I think there was all that build-up with the transfer window and Europa League and this Old Firm game. It was like constant. We were talking football, Rangers over and over again. Then it was a complete lull for the last fortnight. So it'll be good to get back, hopefully get a win. And then, if I'm right in my head, we might be back at Ibrox for a few games. And hopefully that's as their season really starting to kick off.
Yeah, I think we've got a good favourable run of games really coming up, domestically wise anyway. So I would like to hope that we get a good run of wins and get a bit of momentum going. So once again, Gary, thank you for giving up your time and coming on and coming on and chatting. It's a pleasure as always. And thank you to everyone in the comments who have been getting involved. Rangers Journal, we're nearly up to 2,000 subscribers now, which is a great achievement in just over 6 months. So if you can like and subscribe, tell your friends about us who haven't seen us yet, get them to tune in. Number of podcasts coming up over this week. We'll obviously have the match reaction tomorrow afternoon after the game. I'll be on. I'm not sure who else is on tomorrow afternoon, but hopefully it'll be a positive performance and positive result. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Enjoy the game. And as always, remember, every night is a Rangers Journal night.